Hello, Sula here from MistyHilltops.com. Thanks for stopping by. In this video, I'm scrapping a scrapbook layout titled Graduation Dinner that is a 6x12, like a double page spread. And I'm scrapping a number of photos, and I'm using the digital scrapbook kit, Here's the Dish, by Heather Roselli and Melissa Bennett from Sweetshoppe Designs. So I started by creating this layout in my Silhouette, and then I cropped the papers to the digital papers to the basically the papers that I create in the shapes that I create in my Silhouette studio, and then I print everything out and then cut everything. And usually when it's just plain straight cuts, I usually just trim them by hand. Circles I use my circle dies for, and rarely when there's an intricate cut. At some point, sometimes I do use my Silhouette to cut these things, but in this case I just hand cut everything. And so here are a number of paper strips that like a flag type strip that will go at the bottom there, and then the other paper strip will go on top. And then I'm kind of trying to make sure that the distance and the gaps are correct the way that I planned this page. So I do want the pattern still to be visible, and so I love working with pattern papers, but I also want them to be seen. And so I also cut this frame that comes with this digital kit, and just it's on printed on this kind of thin-ish, not really copy paper thin, but still not full-on cardstock paper that I use for printing my pattern papers. So that means that frame is still very wobbly and not like cardstock. So I'm starting with this photo because then the frame needs to go on top, and I just glue that frame on top, but there's nothing to it other than just this plain piece of paper that is cut out as a frame. And I like that when it is finished, it looks like a frame, it feels like a frame, but it's still all done with just simple plain paper that is a little more than copy paper. And so here, once again, as many other times, I forgot that I wanted to have this paper behind the photo, and as it happens often to me, quite often I forget a piece that needs to go behind, but lucky it wasn't a big deal. I was still able to pull off this photo from with the glue without just tearing everything. And so now I'm ready to just start clustering everything, and then I have to start with the other page, and that is a little more tricky because I want that piece of paper that is at the background, I want that to be give the impression that it's one long strip of paper, but I didn't want to use all that paper. It's easier for me to print out smaller pieces because I can fit more on my paper, and so I try to use smaller pieces of paper, and so I cut it apart because I knew it was going to be covered completely by photos. So I'm saving myself ink. It's a little more complicated this way, but I'm saving myself ink and I'm saving myself paper. But it was easy enough by using this other cardstock there, that strip of cardstock, to just extend where the other that other piece of paper is glued on the page, and so it just works fine. It wasn't even like tricky and fiddly. It was easy enough. And so this is how I deal with not having to waste too much paper that I print, and not having to waste too much print ink on things that are clearly going to be well covered up by other elements of this page. So then there goes this strip of paper, and I was aware that there was this paper flag, but I still wanted to use that too to measure where I put things as well. So this was part of the placement where I'm placing it. But I'm mostly paying attention to, there's words on this background paper there, and so I was paying attention to the words and where that strip of paper should go according to the words. And I have my computer nearby with the original layout, the way I planned it in Silhouette, and so then I can just rebuild it from the way. Now in my Silhouette, I don't go ahead and arrange all the elements and all that. I just merely clip the papers to the rectangles that are in my sketch that I create, so that I have something to print. But and then I resize the elements so that they fit, but I don't arrange them on my Silhouette page. I'm not creating an entire page there before I put it down on real paper. That I do save myself that time, but I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do, and so that helps a lot with putting this page together quickly afterward. I just struggle personally with just seeing things well, but once I have it laid out in my Silhouette studio, it's much easier than to picture it, to imagine it the way it should look on the real page. And then I can see if the patterns work. I can see if the patterns are clashing with each other, or if the contrast is going well and all that if I do this. However, I also do scrap with real papers, paper pads that I just get. And so obviously then you don't have that trial run in the Silhouette. I would just be cutting things. And I've done that no problem as well. So I like both ways. I like the way that I can plan things out in my Silhouette first before I start putting the pages together in real life, basically, not just a digital way. So here I have 2 more frames, the same frame as before, and so when I print them, I usually fill them out with smaller elements that still need to be printed out. This is a die cut piece that I have, like this ladle thing there, that I thought was fitting with the rest of this page. And so now now that the photos are all arranged, I can start with the rest of the embellishments. And like I said, the embellishments I do not plan out, but what I do is I do keep in mind there's a design principle of 3s, and so I try to create a visual triangle with my main clusters. There may be another cluster here or there that is a smaller cluster, but I try to keep it with 3 main clusters. Now, if I was working on it with a 12 by 12 layout, I would put 3 main clusters on each of the spreads. But because this is such a small scale scrapbook layout, I'm working on 2 6x6 pages, so I keep this as a whole. I keep it with 3 basic clusters there. So that is usually a nice way. It just leads the eyes in a nice way, and it's not just it keeps interest on the page. So that's why it's considered a design principle to work with a visual triangle there. And so you will see that me doing that with most of my pages, although I'm not dogmatic about it where I have to insist it has to go this way. I do like to mix things up every once in a while as well, and sometimes I do have extra things that I've printed out or extra embellishments that I want to use, and so I'm okay with sometimes breaking those rules, and they're not set in stone, and you can still have pretty pages even if you don't follow this exactly. But in many of my pages I do follow these design rules because they're there for a reason. So here these flowers need to still be and for that I clipped or I used the color picker to just use the same color red that is running with because I knew I wouldn't have the same kind of hue of red in my craft papers, and I wanted to use my dies to for the flowers, and so I printed it out that dark red. I just printed a strip of paper in dark red and used one of my dies then to cut the flowers from this. So that's that. And now I have a few more tiny embellishments. There are also flowery elements that I still want to scatter across the page there. And so those need to go, and then I'm almost done with my page. So just a few more elements, and I try to keep them with my clusters there. And I leave the other flower, I leave it away, and this is my page done. I'm going to leave you with some more close-ups. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Consider subscribing, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.